What's up, We Hunt Two, We Fish Two? Welcome back. It's your boy Doc here. Look, got a special treat for you today. Um, I have a young man that's going to speak with you and myself about the outdoors. I interviewed a a game warden that works for the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. And in the interview, there were some questions that I think will give us some insight into any of your curiosities or any of your apprehensions that you may have had or that you have currently about being in the outdoors or participating in the outdoors. Um, the whole goal of this interview is to diffuse any and all concerns that you may have had over the years that you was taught or that you have learned or someone may have told you. Um, the whole point is to kind of diffuse that so that you can have an appreciation for outdoors and to participate in the outdoors, whether that's fishing or hunting or hiking or any of those activities. The whole goal here is to make you comfortable because we want you to be involved. We want you to get outdoors, go outside and enjoy and enjoy the great outdoors. So I hope that you have some takeaways from this video and that you can some things that you can learn. Also, there is an opportunity for locally here in the metropolitan Jefferson County, Birmingham area. I along with in collaboration with the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, we're going to hold a firearm safety course. So if you're interested, leave me a comment, and I'll be definitely get back with you with the details regarding that. I'm gonna put the link into for those gun safety courses in the description of this video. So and any other information regarding that is going to come at the end. So you guys, hope you enjoy the video, and remember, we hunt too, we fish too. Peace.
Sounds great.
All right. All right, we hunt too, we fish too family. Doc here. I have a very special guest today with us that I want to talk to and ask some questions and maybe provide you some answers that you may have had questions yourself. I have Sergeant Scott Kellenberger, and I'm gonna pause here and let Sarge introduce himself. So, Sarge, take it away.
Thank you, Stacy. My name is Scott Kellenberger. Just to give you a brief background on me, I'm 62 years old. Got a degree from JSU way back in about 1985. Criminal justice major, biology minor. Have worked in law enforcement basically ever since. Policed a little bit. Started working with the Department of Conservation here in Alabama in 1996, and have been doing this ever since.
Wow, that's great, and again, thank you, Sarge, for coming on with us, and thank you for all that you do. And hopefully, with what we get done today, we can really help a lot of people that may have had some concerns about, um, participating in outdoors and or any rules and laws associated with that, or any kind of concerns they may have had in terms of their safety or any safety regarding the use of firearms. So we want to kind of dispel or diffuse any of those anxieties as much as we can so that we can increase that participation in the great outdoors, particularly here in the state of Alabama. So with that, I'm gonna start with the first question. It says, "What inspired you to become an officer or a wildlife officer?"
Well, that's a great question. When I started at JSU, of course, my first year, well, I've always enjoyed the outdoors for starters. Um, and I've probably got ADHD, so I like to walk around in the woods and do different things every day.
Right, right, right.
Uh, so the variety of this job matches my personality well because things are always changing. But when I went to JSU and started taking the basics in the first year, well, the first year was all basics. The second year, I started taking uh, a criminal justice class or two and a biology class or two, and I just kind of I found the criminal justice end interesting and just stayed with it. And basically, it's all worked out well from
Mhm.
there. Working for this department, particularly as a field officer, your responsibilities change with the seasons. Literally, you have uh, fishing in the spring, turkey hunting in the spring.
That's
Where I am here in Jackson County, you have fishing all year round.
all right.
Uh, but then in the fall, you have dove season and early squirrel season rolling in, and bow season for deer.
Hmm.
Then deer gun and duck season come in all through the winter. And about the time deer season is over, you might catch your breath for about a week and then start looking for turkey bait again.
Yes, sir.
So it's just a constant variety, and that's been very good for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes.
Very very enjoyable job. Uh,
That's awesome. And real just to kind of touch base on something we've done in the past. I don't know if you're familiar with the little uh it was kind of a little meeting we had with some members with some of your colleagues,
mhm.
Mr. Freeman and Mr.
Yeah.
Grimes. We had them on campus at JSU, and we also had Mr. Eric Morris, the TV host of the Non-Typical Outdoorsman,
Okay.
and they had a couple of conversations with our students. But one of the biggest takeaways from that was the opportunities that working in outdoors or working in the live wildlife arena, the job opportunities that could be afforded to our students, regardless of their career, their degree path. Their degrees can be used
Sure.
in the outdoors, whether that's biology, looking at some areas involving the biology outdoors, or even some of the engineering pieces that allow for the inner workings or the infrastructure that goes into making sure people are safe, excuse me, in the outdoors. So that was a great conversation, and you just what you alluded to earlier just resonated with me. That's why I wanted to kind of touch bases on that.
Sure. Sure.
Great, great. Number two, can you describe your experience with serving as a wildlife officer or
The
serving as a wildlife officer? Sorry.
Yeah, the I guess the best description I could give of it, uh, of the tasks, are just a constant change, like I mentioned before,
Mhm.
and it depends partially on what part of the state you work in. If you work down south, alligator season is a big thing. I'm glad we
Mm.
don't have them here. We don't have, I'm scared of them. We don't have them here. We don't hunt them up here, and I'm glad we don't. But Jackson County, where I work, is
Mhm.
probably the busiest county in the state.
Mhm.
Although I'm not in the field anymore, I got to say that. But it is a very busy county. We have a huge uh, fisheries here.
Mm.
Gunnersville Reservoir is one of the top
Yeah.
bass fishing lakes in the
Yes.
eastern
Yes.
U.S. and has been for
Mhm.
years. We
They
do a
have a
lot
lot
of
of tournaments
waterfowl
up there.
hunting. What's that?
They have a lot of tournaments there.
Oh, yeah, tons of tournaments.
Mhm.
We have a lot of waterfowl hunting, deer and duck hunting. So, long story short, just a huge variety of things to do, and you might do two or three or four of them in the same day. You might work crappie fishing and a duck hunting and a deer hunting complaint all in the same day. So um, if you have a short attention span like I do, it's a great thing.
Yeah. Hey, I'm
So
with you. I share that too.
yeah,
As
just
far
the
as I,
variety of the tasks that you will do. Uh, you know, it's almost limitless. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
huge variety of things, and that's common with us.
Right. Right. So you really never have a dull moment, as they say, or every day is a new adventure, as cliche as it
That's
may sound.
that's pretty close. If
Hmm.
you find yourself with nothing to do here for a little while, you probably ought to take a deep breath because it's going to change.
It's going to change.
There is
Awesome.
not a lot of dead time these days for sure.
Yeah, I was at a conference about a month, about 2 months ago, and one of the speakers did a little an exercise where he went around and asked everybody, well, if they had a second chance to have the career of their dreams, what would it be? They went around the room, they got to me, and I said, forester.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find myself attracted to being outdoors, doing things outdoor
Sure.
related. And because it's like you said, it's never a dull moment. There's always an adventure. There's always something to do. So, and I just enjoy it as well. Yeah. So what you're saying resonates with me a whole lot. All right, moving on. Next question. How do you handle situations where people are not following wildlife regulations and laws?
Okay. So I spent most of my career in the field.
Mhm.
Uh, like I said, I'm out of the field at the moment, but still in the law enforcement section. So the the primary task of the law enforcement section is to find and apprehend, you know, people who are violating the natural resource, game and fish regulations and laws. And so uh, we find those people through, you know, either patrol that we initiate on our own, or through tips, or by patrolling likely areas. Uh, but we basically hunt for violators, and then when we find them, uh, some of them are intentional violations and some of them are accidental,
Mhm.
and we kind of try to parse through that. And if we have a young or a beginning hunter who is unfamiliar with the regs, we may give them a verbal warning and give them some information, um, try to set them, just give them good information and get them on the right path. Um, Unfortunately, we do have some kind of career serious violators as well. And so we hunt them to the best of our ability and ticket them. You know, Almost all of our arrests are field arrests, so we would be writing citations and cutting them loose on the spot.
Mhm.
Although, we have the ability to make custodial arrests, it's not common for what we do. Um, but that's kind of how we handle the enforcement end of it. There's always people that make mistakes that are accidents and things like that.
Mhm.
We try not to penalize them too hard, but to educate them, because we want everybody to hunt and fish. It's not like we're trying to make people quit. We want them to do it. But there's kind of a couple different brands of violators,
Right.
and we treat them differently.
Right. That's great because that's great to know. And if you're out there and I'm speaking to the audience or those that are watching. If you participate in outdoors and if you've been doing it for any length of time, at some point you will want to run across a law enforcement person, and a lot of times that engagement or that encounter is really to it's about safety because I had an experience, I had an encounter, and all it was, to make a long story short, it just wanted to make sure that I was licensed, that I
Sure.
had my license on me, and I was, not violating any of those laws. The young man, he was a new to the force after I, did some research and background because at first,
Mhm.
I had some questions about the stop, but what I've learned, it was a safety deal, and he did a
Mhm.
phenomenal job, and that encounter was great. So
Sure.
uh, I'm in total support of law enforcement. I have friends that are in law enforcement, so I'm a big supporter of that. So
We appreciate it. We need all the help we can get.
yes, sir, yes, sir. And so with these, which is a great segue to the next question: why is it so important to have proper license for hunting and fishing?
Well, licensing, hunting and fishing licensing is
Mhm.
how the law enforcement section is funded. So there's there's kind of a long story behind it, but the quick and easy version of it is that hunting and fishing licenses keep our enforcement people, on the road in their trucks and out
Mhm.
doing their thing. So, and kind of an interesting thing is that our department gets zero general tax fund uh, money.
Mhm.
All of our funding comes from the people who buy hunting and fishing licenses and who buy firearms and ammunition and fishing equipment. Uh, the tax monies on those are directed to us, and so the people who the user groups, the hunters and fishermen and the shooters, are the ones that pay our salaries.
Mhm.
Um, so that's why we have to have the licensing, is to keep us in the field. And there are people who would say, well, we really don't need any game wardens, and I wish we didn't have any. But the problem with that is we've done that,
Mhm.
150 years ago or so, uh, before we had any kind of game and fish regulations. It was just wide open, and people commercial hunted everything all the time.
Mhm.
And your resource just didn't last like that. So
Right. Wow, that's great information. So the licensing is kind of control the number of harvests, people have per year or per game
yeah,
uh
that's what our
season.
regulations do. and
Mhm.
and the biologists study that and figure out how many we can take without hurting the population,
Right.
so we have stable populations for everybody to enjoy year after year. um, but that's what funds us, is
Okay.
the license sales.
Okay. Great. So um people out there in TV land, if you're hunting, fishing, get your license because that license has multiple purposes to it.
That'll be the first thing we ask for too.
Yes, yes, sir. Sure do. Sure do. Yes, sir. Um, Next question. How would you handle a situation where someone is illegally hunting or poaching on protected land? And if you could you identify what protected land means?
Okay, there's different kind of classifications of properties. um, Private property, there's uh, public owned property that's open to hunting, like our management areas, wildlife management areas. We have some wildlife refuges where either all species or certain species are strictly protected on those areas, and there's no hunting allowed.
Mhm.
So there's several different classifications of places of land where you either can or cannot hunt certain species, or maybe you can't hunt at all. And that can get a little complicated. You'd have to study the regs on that, but let's just say here in this county we have some waterfowl refuges, and it is not legal to hunt waterfowl on them at any time.
Mhm.
But occasionally people will get in there and do that. uh,
Oh, wow.
there is a particular reg for hunting on wildlife refuges and sanctuaries.
Mm.
I've made a fair number of those cases over the years. um, and sometimes we find them through basically a random patrol, or maybe someone will call us and say, hey, I hear shooting over on the refuge.
Mm.
And so uh, we would go in and we write citations on that. That's kind of a hard thing to mess up. I mean, people do, but you should know, with the technology today, with the apps, the land
Mm.
apps on your
Yeah.
phone,
Yes.
kind of hard not to know where you are.
Right.
And if
Right.
you hunt, I would absolutely have one of those apps.
Yeah, like Onyx or Huntwise.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes it so much easier for
It
everybody.
does. It does. Because on those apps, it identifies or it names, labels the
Yes,
different properties or where you are and things
yes.
of that nature. So
and
yes.
and I am not tech savvy at all, but I can use those, so that if I can do it, anybody can do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Um, How do you ensure that you are enforcing wildlife regulations fairly and consistently?
Well, we kind of get some training for that. Uh, our officers will go through a year of um, basically they're on probation and they're on the job training.
Hmm.
And so during that time, we watch how they handle themselves and how they talk to people and that kind of thing. Um, we really have had very little problems with that. Um, you know, most people, you know, it may be driving a car or whatever, like almost everybody's had a traffic citation, a speeding
Correct,
ticket.
correct.
So, if somebody has a minor game and fish violation, it happens. I mean, it's not something that we make a huge deal out of. We just,
Mhm.
we have to do our job. But um, anyway, that's we've really not. If I if I'm understanding your question uh, correctly, we train our people to treat everybody like basically like they would like to be treated.
Right,
Uh,
right, right,
that's
right.
the easiest way. That's the
Mhm.
easiest way to answer, any question that we might have in the field is how would I want or expect to be treated if this was me? Now, if you've got a
Mhm.
career, a violator that you've caught over and over and over again, right out of the gate that he's going to get a citation,
Correct.
uh, and he should expect that.
Yeah.
But you know, basically, and even these career violators and stuff, um, it in any encounter, it pays to be as nice as that person will let you be. Um, I've actually, had caught some guys that did some fairly serious violating, and I just treat them nicely, just like you and I are talking here.
Mhm.
And those guys will end up calling me a year or two later and giving me tips on things, and some of them actually go straight and quit violating at some
Right,
point. And
right.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, like I said, the encounter that I had, I mean, if I could, if I had an opportunity, and I think I gave him um some kudos when when I talked to someone in the office. I said, hey, you did a phenomenal job. He was great, because I was trying to get some questions, some understanding, some things. And the young man was very pleasant. And you're right. The encounter would go just as polite as the person would allow it to go. And
sure,
that's with anything. And for
yeah,
anyone that's out there, if you are a habitual offender, then you would be personally or offended, or you would have some apprehensions or become what we call defensive in terms of when you meet a person in uniform or law enforcement. So
yeah.
that
Some
situation may
people,
not go so well for that person.
sure, some people dislike law enforcement or they dislike being caught because they think
Eh,
they're about to get a ticket,
right, right,
and
right,
and I get that, you
right.
know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it happens. I mean, that's the human element, of course, in terms
Yeah.
of,
Now,
someone just don't want to be
sure.
silent for something, but
And on the officer's end of it too, you kind of have to look at it from their perspective as well. Um, a lot of times we're encountering armed people
mm,
in remote areas, and there's nobody else around. It may just be the officer and that individual.
yes,
And that officer has never seen that person before in their life, and they have no idea who they are, how
correct,
they're going to respond.
correct.
And so the initial contact, that officer may be using some tactics. you know, he may blade his body. He may stay 10 or 12 feet away from the person. He may ask that person to lay their firearm down. And, you know, that person may be totally innocent, or that person may be on probation or, on parole
Mhm.
for a felony,
Right,
and maybe going back to prison. We
right,
don't know that.
right.
So, you kind of have to give us the benefit of the doubt on the first part of it. Now,
Yes,
once we realize that everything's cool, we're going to be cool too.
yeah, and people out in out that are watching, understanding those. what he talking about, the posturing and the positioning
Yes.
officer may have, that
Yep.
is done to um um that's for safety purposes. And so
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
nothing that should be taken of,
Right.
for granted, or is protecting not only the officer but you as well. So
Sure.
don't be offended by that. I mean, like Sarge said earlier, that's come with their training. That's what they're supposed to do. So, all right, great. Let's try to get through this. What is your approach to educating the public about hunters education and responsible outdoor recreation?
Okay. So, like on a person to person basis, I just try to spread information. I get lots of phone calls and meet people on the street and they ask me questions, and I'll direct them to our website, outdooralabama.com, or give them a regulation brochure or tell them where they can get one, uh, things like that. Um, as a regional hunter ed coordinator, which is what I do now, we support, like I support all the hunter ed instructors in my district. The vast majority of the hunter ed classes that get taught are taught by ag teachers in high school. They teach probably 90% of the people who get taught. And so any of them that need anything, they call or email me. I make sure they get it. Sometimes I'll go teach a portion of their class, usually the firearms safety portion if they want that. Um, but we kind of try to spread the knowledge far and wide as best we can.
Awesome. Okay. What strategies do you use to effectively communicate with diverse group of people, including hunters, anglers, and wildlife enthusiasts?
Well, I'm a simple guy. I try to treat other people the way I would like to be treated.
Awesome.
So any questions that I get, any requests, um, I do what I can for them within the limits of my abilities and what I have access to.
Mm-hmm.
But I just try to, if you treat people like you'd like to be treated, it's kind of hard to go wrong, and it's only one thing to remember. So
Right.
makes it pretty easy.
Makes it pretty easy. That's a great response, Sarge. I really appreciate that. Because I'm like that. I'm like treat those like you want to be treated, because that's how I was brought up.
Yeah, yeah. Or treat
Mom
them like
instilled
you'd
that
want
in me. So
like you'd want your family treated, or your brother, your sister, your mom, your
exactly,
dad.
exactly. Awesome. What role do you believe community outreach plays in promoting wildlife conservation efforts?
Well, the different outreach programs, um, I think are real valuable to try to give people a taste of hunting or fishing or shooting or whatever they may be interested in, with a little guidance from people who know how to do it. You know, I mean, if somebody wanted to learn how to fish, they could they could go buy some equipment and go hit the lake. But if they were to go with somebody, now these days there's YouTube videos for everything, and hunting and fishing videos for everything. When I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid, there was not.
Right.
So you usually learned from your buddy or your dad or your
Yeah.
uncle or
Yeah.
somebody like that, or all three. But these days, kids may watch videos and things, but the in-person tutoring uh, is probably more enjoyable and maybe more effective. So I think people having some instruction, from people who know how to do it in the field is uh, an effective gateway for them to get an insight into whatever they're wanting to learn.
Awesome.
And it usually gives them a contact where, I mean, if somebody takes a class from me, they all get my cell phone number and my email address.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's like, hey, if you have a question later, shoot me an email.
Right.
And I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people in my handgun 101 classes. And you know, almost every class, I'll get 2 or 3 emails, and they'll say, "What about this? What about that?" And so they can bounce questions off of me, and that helps them out. And I'm not, if they want to know what kind of firearm should I buy, they kind of feel comfortable talking to me because they've already met me, number one. And then if they go to a gun store, that guy's trying to sell them something. I'm not trying to sell them anything. So
Right.
it makes a good resource.
I'm glad you said that. So I'm gonna take this opportunity right here to kind of promote a venture you and I have talked about with the gun safety class that
Sure.
we want to offer. And I want those that are watching that we are in conversation and trying to have a class. So if you're interested in that class, including those that I've already gathered who've shown interest and want to participate, you can also take part in this class that I'm going to once we confirm dates and times and get a location locked in. I will let you all know through either a video or some form of communication to inform you of time and place for that, because that's something that we want to promote and participate in with Sarge with that. Okay, and I wanted to do that before time runs out, but if it does, that's fine, Sarge. We're going to keep on going, and because we only have a couple more questions to go, and I'm gonna kind of see which ones can we do. Let's say what are some do's and don'ts that you will offer new hunters?
Well, the do's would be research. Do research. Hunting regulations are very complex. Uh, I policed on the street for several years, and we would enforce the same half dozen laws over and over and over. It was not that difficult. When you go to hunt someplace, you have dates, times, firearms restrictions or equipment restrictions, um, shooting hours, legal shooting hours, starting and stopping hours, bag limits, just tons of details that you've got to try to figure out and know. And if you're not very familiar with a lot of that, you can miss some stuff easily. And even when I hunt out of state now, I will study the regs. Frequently, I'll call that department if I have a question and say, "Hey, I'm reading this reg. And tell me if I'm reading it right." And then I take my Onyx or my hunt stand to that other state too to make sure I'm standing where I think I'm standing.
Right.
And I'm just real paranoid about making a mistake. And
Right.
so for someone starting out, I would say do a bunch of research. Also, maybe talk to some guys who either hunt the species that you want to hunt or hunt the places that you want to hunt. And on the don'ts, I would say don't assume anything. Don't assume that because your buddy says, you got to kind of double check your buddies because some of them go on hearsay. I heard it was okay to do this, or I heard it was okay to do that,
Right.
and it may not be. So whatever they say, maybe corroborate that by looking in the reg book.
Right.
And don't be afraid to give us a call. In our regulation digest and on Outdoor Alabama on our website, the district office phone numbers are all listed. And so whatever district you live in, if you want to talk to the officer that works your county, you can call that district office and say, "Hey, I live in Calhoun County and I'd like to have one of the Calhoun County guys or girls call me." And it may take a couple of days because they'll email that officer. And whenever he is on duty and gets that email, he will call you. But you can get information.
Describe your experience with conducting public presentations or educational programs related to wildlife.
Okay, so I do quite a bit of that now. Even as a field officer, you're going to get asked to speak to different civic groups occasionally, not a whole bunch, but I've done that some. as I got into instructing, I started dealing with more and more groups, and now that I'm a hunter ed coordinator, that's just about. I mean, I do a whole bunch of that now. So um, I've I basically speak at every class I give. And it's not necessarily any kind of civic group or anything because I really don't do very much of that, but it's different classes and different shooting sports events primarily.
Okay.
Used to make me nervous, but now I just don't care. I mean, actually, I care. I've just done enough of it that if I don't know something, I'll just tell you I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, yeah, you
Well, I'll
about
look
like
it up.
me. Yeah, you
So
done
if I
done
don't know,
stuff
I'll look
before.
it up. But it doesn't bother me to talk to people.
Right, right, absolutely. Um, are there any specific projects or initiatives that you've been involved with or led to do the same, which in terms of either protecting and conserving wildlife?
Uh, I've not been involved on any like wildlife management conservation
Hmm.
projects per se. Uh, the you know I've done a fair amount of training in the department, and we have developed some classes. Not just me, but myself and some other officers together have developed some classes that we still use in our training and
Hmm.
that we run our new hires through.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of a legacy training thing, if you will. We
Hmm.
saw a need and saw something that we thought was valuable enough to have all of our officers go through.
Hmm.
And so I've helped develop some of that over the years. The latest thing is the Handgun 101 or the 101 program. Um, my chief and myself and another guy or two. Um, I'm trying to remember what year we started this in, but it was probably in 19 or 20.
Hmm.
Um, is when we launched it, and it was basically we have some firing ranges that we own on our wildlife management areas,
Hmm.
and we saw a lot of people in the course of patrolling those. We saw a lot of people who were not very familiar, some who were not very competent or safe, even. And they were looking for instruction,
Hmm.
qualified instruction. But if you go do a search on that and you start looking for firearm safety classes, handgun classes, or whatever, you can start spending a fair amount of money pretty fast. And so we decided that we had good instructors and we already owned the ranges, and it was in our interest and the interest of the public for us to train them,
Hmm.
educate them, makes them safer. They have a better time, and they're on our ranges too. So that's another good reason to keep them safe and competent. As they're using our place. So um, that's the last thing that I've been involved in, and
Okay.
we just developed a little lesson plan for it, and then started teaching it, and we threw out what didn't work and added a few other things, but I think it's a pretty good class now.
Okay, and that's a good segue into this next question, and you may have answered this part of this already. Matter of fact, I know that you have, but I'm gonna ask the question anyway because there may be
Okay,
something else you can kind of address here.
sure.
What experience do you have with using firearms for hunter education?
Okay. Yeah, we talked about this question a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, um, well, since hunting involves the use of firearms most of the time, you
Mhm.
can bow hunt and things like that,
Yes.
but
Yes. Mhm.
a wide variety of firearms used in hunting. And so we use in our hunter ed classes, we use fully functioning but non-firing firearms.
Mhm.
They're a modified firearms, so the actions and triggers and safeties all work, but they don't fire. So
Mhm.
we demo with those, let people handle them and practice with them. There's no ammo, they can't shoot. Uh, so that's one area. If you take one of our firearms 101 classes, whether it be rifle, pistol, or shotgun, we'll be shooting for a couple of hours straight. We'll have a little classroom time and everything, but we'll shoot basically until everybody gets tired. We shoot for a couple of hours.
Got
Uh, and so, uh, that's we're our trailers that we carry around, you know, we have firearms, ammo, ear protection, eye
Mhm,
protection, everything we
mhm,
need. And so that's basically part of our issue, our standard issue. So
right.
we use a lot of firearms in the training part. Um, we have them available because not everybody does. Um, you know, if somebody wants to try to learn to go shoot, they can come and shoot with us, and they don't have to go buy a firearm first.
Mhm.
They can come shoot one of ours and see if they like it.
See that this
So
th
we,
this is great information because I just had a conversation with one of an interested participant
sure.
in what we're wanting to do, and they were talking about, well, would they have some firearms available? So my
Oh
wife,
yeah,
maybe she can get used to handling it before we go out and purchase. I mean, we
absolutely.
literally had this conversation earlier today, and
Yeah.
I think this is great
Well,
information to let them know or to inform them
yeah,
that you have the tools and you
yeah,
have resources available to,
yeah.
educate.
And I'm glad you asked me this again, because when you asked me, when we talked about it briefly earlier, I forgot basically uh, to invite your listeners. Um, Go to our website,
Mhm,
outdooralabama.com. As you're scrolling down there, you'll see a like an ad that says "Learn to Shoot."
mhm,
Click on that, and that will open our Firearms 101 program to you, and you can read class descriptions. And we have some spring classes up now. They're mostly handgun classes. They may all be handgun classes at this point, but there are 4 or 5 classes that are currently posted right now on Outdoor Alabama. And so depending on where somebody lives, like the majority of the ones I teach are in Limestone County at Tanner,
mhm,
right across the river from Decatur. And then down in Shelby County, where you and I were talking about,
mhm,
I've taught a bunch of them at Cahaba WMA, but we bought a new piece of property there at Columbiana that we're using mostly now.
okay,
Uh, it's a great training facility. I've got classes posted there in March and April right now.
mhm,
So we provide, you can read this on the website, but we provide 22 caliber revolvers and auto pistols. We provide the ammo, eye and ear protection. Every shooter has their own instructor.
mhm,
So whenever someone is shooting, there will be an instructor within arm's reach of them the entire time.
great, awesome,
Uh, we keep a 1-to-1 ratio. Like
mhm,
a typical class will be 12 people.
okay,
We'll run 6 benches.
gotcha,
So while one shooter is shooting, that instructor will be with them. The other shooter will be on standby, basically watching, and we rotate them out. So the instructor stays at the bench and the shooters rotate.
mhm,
So every time someone has a pistol in their hand, they've got an instructor right beside them. Um, it's been a it's kind of expensive on man hours. It takes a lot of man hours to do that, uh, because when we do it, I will be there, and if we have a full class of 12 people, I'll have 6 more instructors with me.
okay,
So it takes 7 of us to teach 12 people.
gotcha,
So that's instructor heavy. But that I think is the best and safest way to do it. And some or a lot of these classes that people may go take from private instructors, some of those guys are really, really good,
mhm,
but it's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive if you get a one-on-one.
mm, yeah,
That's going to be a more expensive class.
right,
And
okay,
the other thing too is like uh, we require people to buy one of our licenses to take the class. All you have to have is a current heritage license, which
mhm,
you can buy on its own. It's less than $13, I think. Or if you already have a hunting or fishing license, state hunting or fishing, that heritage license is included.
right,
So basically, like in your case, you've already got a hunting license.
right,
If you want to come to my class, all you got to do is show up.
correct,
Um, and then we invite people to come back as many times as they like, because a lot of them are true beginners and they're not going to learn enough. They're not going to become competent in one class. And so our goal is to make competent, safe, standalone shooters out of them. So we invite them to come back over and over, and a lot of them do.
Mhm.
And if you go private with that, every time you go again, you're going to pay again.
Right.
So it's a very good class, very affordable. I've taken and taught a whole bunch of firearms classes, and I
Mhm.
don't think it can be beat for the money.
Right. Yeah, I agree. As an instructor, you guys do a phenomenal job. So I'm confident that, this would be just the same. So for you all that's listening, I'm going to put that information in the description of this video so you can have that link to go to Alabama
Right.
Outdoors for those courses. And at the end of this video, hopefully we can provide more information regarding dates and times and places. So if you locally here around the metro, Jefferson County area, Shelby County area, we can fill a class on a couple of those dates. I would love for you guys that are listening to participate and really take this opportunity to become a competent gun owner and being able to be a safe gun owner as well. So I'm gonna provide you that information. So
Yeah.
sorry, I really appreciate that.
Stacey, for your listeners, when we post one of these classes,
Mhm.
it's open to the public.
Open to the
Uh,
public.
but like, if you want to help us fill rosters, which you are doing right now,
Huh?
we can post a class. As soon as it gets posted, I can shoot you an email,
Okay.
and you can talk to your listeners and say, we got one at Shelby County right now, just came open,
Hmm.
and they'll be able to jump in it. They'll have a very early opportunity to get in it.
No,
Uh,
I consider it done. That's easy. I can do that.
sure.
No problem. No
Okay,
problem.
cool.
Um, Next question. We did the do's and don'ts. Okay. What advice do you have to give someone interested in the outdoors and outdoor activities such as hunting, fishing, and hiking? And you may have gone over this from an earlier question, but anything specific to either one of those that may be are different than what you've already said would be great.
Well, like in our hunter ed classes, we teach a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I think we try to cover too much stuff in one day
Uh-huh.
because people's capacity to absorb it is limited. So if I was gonna if I was gonna distill that down, I would say make sure you're being safe, that you don't get hurt or drown or fall out of a tree and break your neck. You
Ooh.
know, there's a bunch of good ways to get hurt
Yes.
fooling around with outdoor stuff.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
we play with sharp things, arrows and knives.
Mm-hmm.
We carry firearms,
All right.
and a lot of times you're in a remote area where if you slip on the rocks and break your ankle, you may be there a minute. So that is what we all want to be legal and have licenses and all that too. But first things, we don't want to get hurt
Yes.
trying to do this. So I would say really learn your equipment and just be paranoid's not the right word,
Mm-hmm.
but that's probably what I am about getting hurt. Like I've been around power tools and machinery, and I've worked around heavy equipment. I've
Right.
worked with knives and you know saws and things all my life, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
scared to death of all that stuff.
Right.
And that's why I still have both my eyes and 10 fingers. You know, uh, I'm very careful in a tree stand. I've spent
Mm-hmm.
thousands of hours in trees and I've never fallen out, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of paranoid about getting hurt.
Right.
That's what I would say is be study your equipment and be very careful. And I'm just always looking for, hey, what can go wrong and get me hurt here? And that helps me avoid those things.
Absolutely.
That's
So
number one.
first, I mean, my people have heard me say this in a couple of my videos. Safety first. It's all about safety because,
Yep. Yep.
injury that you
Yeah.
think is minor can lead to some painful situations out there.
Man, an
So,
unfortunate example that we just had up here in Jackson County a couple of weeks ago. We had a young guy from out of state
uh-huh.
was duck hunting in a kayak, and he
Mm.
rolled out of his kayak and he ended up drowning.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Oh no.
He had a wearable PFD in the dry storage compartment of his kayak, but he wasn't wearing it.
So for people that know don't understand, that's personal flotation device. Okay.
PFD, yep,
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Yeah, he had one, wasn't wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it wasn't required that he wear it, but he was wearing waders. The water was cold.
Yeah.
This young man drowned trying to get out of his waders.
Wow.
Um,
Mm.
apparently, when he rolled out of the kayak, it floated away from him, pushed away from him before he could get a hold of it.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, and so he floundered around, and tried to get his waders off, which may or may not have been a mistake. But long story short, had he used a PFD, we wouldn't be talking about
We
this
wouldn't
right
be
now.
talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's
can
things like that.
yeah, I can understand. Good. That's quite unfortunate. And don't want to get off track, but just to help people get an understanding what we mean by waders. Waders are those bib looking outfits that people wear to walk in water.
Yeah,
They're generally rubberized or some type of rubber type
correct.
material. Now the thing about it, once water gets inside of the waders, it actually weighs you down. It can pull you under the water. So
Yeah,
that's kind of, you have to have that kind of thought processes going on in your head to be careful when you wearing outfits like that, because it can turn very quickly if you're submerged, and you have a hard time coming.
yep,
If you don't have a quick thinking and can get out of them, or a quick fix to get out, and so you can get above the water, then it can be quite unfortunate. I'm sure that young man was trying to figure out how to get out of those because he knew what the waiters were doing. So
yeah. If he'd
quite
have
unfortunate.
been wearing that life jacket, he could have just floated around
It could have
until,
been till he got out of them.
yeah,
Correct, correct.
yeah,
Oh
he
my.
could have
Mm.
kicked his way to shore or whatever, but he would have had a whole lot more time to think about it. Um,
Wow,
so
that's quite unfortunate.
yeah,
Um, now, not don't want to get people. Those just, it happens. That's just what it is, people. So don't get discouraged about accidents. Accidents are what they are, accidents. But here's the question. The last question: is public land hunting safe for a diverse community of hunters? And so, please explain.
yeah, 100%. Uh, by diverse, you're talking about black, white, Asian, male, female,
Yes, sir. Across the spectrum.
you
Yes, sir.
know, yeah, whatever. And I say 100%. Um, you know, we have very, very few accidents on our WMAs.
Mhm.
Um, I have never known of one that had any kind of bias. I've never heard of an assault or anything like that that had any kind of bias related to it. Uh, and as far as just the general safety, a lot of people, I live in a county that's got a lot of WMA,
Mhm.
and some of the people will say, well, I'm not going to go to the WMA. There's too many people. They shoot at stuff. They shoot at everything. You know, I'm too scared to hunt there.
Mhm.
But the, the way, if you look at the numbers, the way hunting accidents occur,
Mhm.
very, very few people are mistaken for game and shot by
Right.
somebody. The
Right.
vast majority of people who get shot either shoot themselves or they're shot by someone in their party.
Mhm.
So it's not the other guy on the next ridge on the WMA that's going to shoot at you because he sees you moving.
Mhm.
It's your buddy getting out of the truck on the other side with a loaded firearm, and he presses the trigger and shoots you on the other side of the truck. That's actually kind of common, uh, strangely enough.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, the WMAs are absolutely safe. Your chances of being shot on a WMA are you're much greater if your hunting partner shooting you on the WMA than somebody else that you've never seen.
Right. And for everybody, I want you to understand the reason for that question. I really wanted SARS to kind of talk about this, because we want, the purpose is to get you guys to overcome those fears, those apprehensions that over years that may have plagued families and groups over the years, and people talking against not going to public land hunting such as WMAs, for all various reasons. But I wanted to, and Sarge and I did a wonderful job in uh, dispelling those apprehensions or those concerns because the people that are most commonly shot are those that are familiar to the person that shot
Yeah,
or
that's
and
unfortunately that's the truth, and that's the person most people are not really watching.
they're not watching that person exactly.
Right, they're
So
not thinking about them.
because I believe, and I guess it's just I, I believe in people. I hate I don't want that to be a naive thought or anything like that. But I think that that people respect other hunters if they're out in the WM. Some may have some issues, may hunted a spot for years and they claim some type of ownership to that particular area. But I believe overall, I think there's a level of respect
Yeah,
among the community of hunters to where
yeah. I think
if a
most of the
person is
people
out
that
there
hunt public, they understand that it's public,
that
and
is public.
and
Exactly.
and
That's what I'm saying.
the
That is
other
public.
person that's there is trying to do the same thing they're
Same
trying to
thing
do.
they are.
So
Absolutely. So the goal here in this part of this question is to get you out there, get everyone, get a opportunity, a chance to participate because it's very rewarding, very satisfying, and we don't want you to be discouraged. So thank you, Sarge, for your response in that.
yes,
And
sir.
anybody that's interested in the outdoors. This is a great opportunity for you to be informed or a platform where you can get some information. Because I'm gonna share as much information with you as I possibly can, and I'm gonna have experts or those that I feel that have a little bit more uh, uh, resources and background information or that can be provided, such as Sarge and others, one of his colleagues that I've mentioned before, they can provide some information to you. So um, that's where I am with it. So Sergeant Kellenberger, at this point, is there anything that you would like to offer, or I may have missed, or some insightful, you know, words
There's
or information that
there's
you have?
one other program that's kind of a sister program to the Firearms 101 program, and that
Mhm.
is our mentored hunting and fishing programs. You can find information on those on outdooralabama.com as well. Um, we have on the the mentored fishing. We take people out, and actually, I don't teach that part, but other guys do,
Mhm.
and give them a one-on-one, or very small group introduction to fishing. Um, and if they've never done it and want to try it, that's a good way to do that. And
Mhm.
then we have mentored hunts, which are really a really, really good way to go hunt a really good place.
Mhm.
It's designed for people who have not hunted. Um, we supply everything start to finish. And if they get drawn for this, it is a very labor intensive uh, program. It
Mm.
takes quite a few people and a good bit of time to do it. And so, in order to keep the quality high, they have to keep the numbers kind of low.
Right.
So it's not big groups, but what you'll have is instructors who will usually be from our wildlife section. They'll be biologists, um, and they will, if someone draws or is selected for this mentored hunt group, they'll go on about a 2.5 day hunt, like a Friday through midday on Sunday
Mhm.
hunt on some super properties. Some of our properties that we own that get very
Mhm.
limited pressure. There's a lot of game on them, and so if you get selected for a deer hunt on one of our areas in South Alabama, uh, you're probably going to get a shot at a deer and or a hog before the weekend is over,
Mhm.
and you're going to be staying, there in a house on that location, a nice place to stay with knowledgeable people. They're going to help you take care of the game. You're going to eat several meals of game while you're there. So there'll be some cooking going on. Um, you know, the kind of the problem with it, if there is a problem, is that it's such a good location it's like going on a really fully guided hunt.
Mm.
And if that's your first hunt, you get a taste of that, and then the next weekend you're on your own. It's kind of rough,
Kind of rough, yeah.
yeah, it's a big difference. But it's a great program.
Yeah.
People get to go on really first class properties with really well qualified instructors.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, and that's the learn to hunt.
Learn to hunt. Okay, okay. Well, guys, I hope that you all had some takeaways from our interview today with Sergeant Kellenberger. He provided you all some very insightful information, and I hope that it helps someone. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment, and I will make sure that he gets them and can provide you a response. Or is there something that you may have that I can help you with? I'll be more than happy to do what I can. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully we can continue to bring you informative content such as this. And I again, I want to thank Sarge for taking the time and participating in this. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Sarge.
Thank you, sir. And be sure to get with me on those gun classes, and we can do non-shooting classes that are strictly safety, or we can do the 101 shooting classes. We'll do both. Whatever you want to do.
Okay. All right, guys. As you know what I say, hey, do what your mama told you. Get out the house and go outside. And remember, we hunt too, we fish too. Peace. All right, so. All right, we hunt too, we fish too, family. I hope you enjoyed the video. Look, I'm looking to expand the platform, and in terms of doing more podcasts. If you all are interested in seeing podcasts, let me know. Leave me a comment to let me know that you would prefer a podcast, or you want to see more podcasts on the channel. I think it'll be a great opportunity to get different perspectives on the channel that we can share, discuss, and talk about things that surrounding the great outdoors. And also, I'm looking to fill this class, this gun safety class. We're looking to have about 12 participants. If you want to be one of the 12, let me know. Leave a comment, and I'll get back with you. And here's the information on how you can be a part of that gun safety course. Appreciate you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Go outside. Do what your mama told you. We hunt too. We fish too. Peace.